The Chinese are our enemies. The Chinese are not our friends. They're not our rivals. They're not our opponents. They are our enemies. We should treat them as such. They are Israel's enemy as well, wiping Israel off the map. They show the geographic formation border, but they won't name it. This is very similar to when I grew up overseas. The maps in Middle Eastern countries were redacted. They either said Palestine, they would oftentimes have Palestine, the label glued over the word Israel, but you'd never see the word Israel. That's what China's doing. But there's something more disturbing too. Our federal government has not gotten serious about shutting down TikTok in the United States. I refuse to use TikTok. TikTok is a Chinese surveillance site. You should delete it from your phone and your children's phones. You should not use TikTok. TikTok is an app on your phone that allows China to spy on you and not only build a database against you, but TikTok also uses its algorithm to steer propaganda towards you. A month or so ago, what went viral on TikTok was a video of a girl. Her boyfriend was putting a ring on her finger, and as the ring touched her finger, she saw the world as it would be as she was married. She was scrubbing toilets, feeding babies, and miserable. And she decided not to get married and have kids. If you paid attention to the background of this viral video, it was filmed in China, and it went viral on TikTok. A lot of people saw it. So much so people started commenting on it. People who like, why is this even in my algorithm? And they saw it, and it was, the message was, if you're a white Western girl, don't get married, don't have kids. Transgenderism is another big one. Transgenderism, the cult of transgenderism, is ultimately a death cult to sterilize your children. They convince your child that he or she is of the opposite sex and go on hormones to sterilize them so they cannot have children. It is not a coincidence that the wave of transgenderism that is sweeping over the country so aggressively in the past couple of years, much of it came from TikTok influencers and the TikTok algorithm that elevated those voices. Your children on TikTok are being indoctrinated into this madness. Your children on TikTok are being indoctrinated into transgenderism by the choice of the Chinese government to elevate those things that normalize it in the TikTok algorithm. And now the anti-Semitism is happening too. Seen Abigail Shrier and others note the pervasiveness of pro-Hamas, pro-Palestinian, anti-Semitic, anti-Israel viral pieces going up on TikTok. People are seeing them in their algorithm, very pro-Palestinian pieces in the TikTok algorithm. And given the nature of what people do and see and participate on TikTok, it can't be coincidence that these anti-Semitic pieces are suddenly being elevated in the TikTok algorithm. This company is working for the enemy. This company is owned by the enemy. This company exists to serve the enemy's purposes. And TikTok can hire all the lobbyists in the world to reach out to me and try to tell me it's not so. And TikTok can try to fund my conference, so I'll shut up about them, and I don't want their money. TikTok is a nefarious entity that should not be on your children's phones. And when your kid decides your kid is a woke progressive, you just ask, did I let my kid keep TikTok on their phone? And if you did, then you are to blame for your child becoming woke because you put a program on your child's phone that is designed to poison your child's mind on behalf of a Chinese Communist Party. TikTok is bad. It's not just that TikTok is bad. It's that TikTok is owned by the enemies of the United States who will use everything they possibly can, including TikTok, against us. The Chinese have deleted the word Israel from their maps. At the same time, I absolutely do not think it's a coincidence the number of pro-Hamas, pro-Palestinian propaganda pieces circulating in the algorithm of TikTok to your phones. It's China putting its thumb on the scale. And you really should not let them. You really, really need to understand that this isn't hysteria. This isn't fear porn. This isn't something that's come out of left field. This is legitimate. The Chinese are using outside entities to buy land around federal military installations in this country, buy up large tracts of land in this country. They're buying up farmland. They're buying up land near sensitive military installations. They're using TikTok. We've got to stop treating these people as rivals. We got to stop treating them as arm's length contractual parties. They're our enemy. And the sooner we all recognize they are our enemy, the better off and safer we will be. They're trying to poison your children's mind as well. And it's not just them, too. It's all of the left these days on college campuses, they're indoctrinating. They're not just indoctrinating, they're brainwashing. They're teaching your kids at an elementary, middle, and a high school level. They put in these Confucius Institutes, the Chinese did, and now you have the woke leftists who are peddling Marxist propaganda and postmodern theory to your kids. They're twisting your children to hate this country. They're twisting your children to think that we're all going to die. Now they're saying 6 years we got until we fall off the face of the earth because of climate change. And you got kids who are deciding, well, I can't grow up and have kids of my own. The world's coming to an end. This is all a plot to restrict and restrain births to save the planet, but also to benefit the Chinese. The Chinese do not want little American boys to grow up and join the military. The wokes are doing everything they can to drive American families from wanting to support the military. And the Chinese are supporting them and amplifying them and using the TikTok algorithm undoubtedly to do these things. TikTok is bad, and so is China. And this stuff sounds crazy, I realize, but it's only crazy if you haven't been paying attention. They're not your friend. They're not your opponent. They're your enemy. And we should not be using the products of our enemy that they can use to weaponize American minds and poison American minds. Which is why you should delete TikTok from your phones if you have it, and why you should not allow your children on TikTok. You should not reward the Chinese propagandists. You should not reward the Chinese government, which owns TikTok. I don't understand why this is so hard for so many people to get. And the Biden administration has had plenty of opportunity to ban TikTok, and they've refused. Governors and states have banned TikTok from college campuses, from employee phones of government employees, because undoubtedly the Chinese have figured out ways to get information off of our phones once you put TikTok on. TikTok can deny it. TikTok can say it's not true. They can do all of these things. But at the end of the day, they're still owned by the Chinese Communist Party, the Chinese military. They are still owned by China. And China insists that everything China owns be used to advance the interests of China. So that includes TikTok. It's not just that our children's minds are being poisoned by the transgender movement and now the anti-Semitic movement. It's that China's weaponizing all this stuff against us. I have no doubt one day. Here's a scenario on TikTok. You are a married heterosexual person, and you spend a whole lot of time looking at mildly inappropriate homosexual things on TikTok, and you go to church and you're upstanding in your community. It's only a matter of time before the Chinese harness this data, weaponize it against you, and threaten to blackmail you or coerce you in some way that you might be gay, whether you are or not, given what you're looking at on TikTok. Or you're on TikTok and you're looking up information about a sexually transmitted disease or something like that. The Chinese will weaponize it against you. They will use your searches and weaponize those things against you in your community. You just wait. It will happen. It's happened plenty of times before in other scenarios. The Chinese will do it on TikTok. You're better off deleting your account today than letting China use it against you in the future. In the meantime, your children are being brainwashed by China against the detriment of this country. You got to think about these things, folks. We're in a cold war with China, whether we want to be or not, and they will use whatever they can against us, and everything they own, they will control and use against us. And one of the things they own is TikTok, and I do not think it's a coincidence that at the same time, maps around the world controlled by China have erased the word Israel. People in America are starting to get a bunch of anti-Semitic posts pulled up in their TikTok algorithm because it's what China wants. Don't let China get what it wants. Delete the app. Avoid it.
You're listening to the